Jesus be the center of it all. Jesus at the center of it all. From beginning to the end, it will always be you, Jesus. Jesus at the center of it all. Jesus at the center of it all. From beginning to the end, it will always be, it's always been you, Jesus. Nothing else matters. Nothing in this world will do. Jesus, you're the center, and everything revolves around you. Jesus, you. Jesus, be the center of my life. Jesus, be the center of my life. From beginning to the end, it will always be, it's always been you, Jesus. Jesus, nothing else matters. Nothing in this world will do. Jesus, you're the center. Everything revolves around you. Jesus, you. From my heart to the heavens, Jesus be the center. It's all about you. Yes, it's all about you. From my heart to the heavens, Jesus be the center. It's all about you. Yes, it's all from my heart to the heavens. Jesus be the center. It's all about you. Yes, it's all about you. Nothing else matters. Nothing in this world will do. Jesus, you're the center, and everything revolves around you. Jesus, you. From my heart. Praise the child of God. Shalom, shalom. My name is Charlie G, and this is Slice of Today. Thank you very much for tuning in for our Slice of Today. I know and I do believe that as God was going to be found coming to us, each and every one of us are going to be found receiving light and understand to the things which are simple. For God has created us plain and simple, and let us not be found making ourselves complicated. In that God created us plain and simple, let us not be found making ourselves complicated. And so today, a man not ashamed, I'm going to be found looking into wisdom and into wisdom. I don't know if it's knowledge, and we are going to be blessed. It's what we've been learning about at Reconcilers World, at Zimmerman, and the Pastor Joseph. He has been preaching on wisdom, and I saw it best for each and every one of us in that in order for us not to be ashamed, in that we need wisdom, and wisdom is going to be found attracting wealth and favor upon our life, in that it's a wholesome life that we are going to be found living. And our theme verse is going to be found coming from the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 12. He says that wisdom is shelter as money is shelter. But the advantage of knowledge is this: wisdom preserves those who have it. Wisdom preserves those of whom have it. And there's only two types of wisdom: the godly wisdom and the worldly wisdom. And that we read in the book of James. Types of wisdom in the book of James. The wisdom of the world is not as the wisdom of God. In the book of James chapter 3 verse 13. James 3:13. I hope that you've had a wonderful week, and today it's Furahi Day. Two kinds of wisdom in the book of James chapter 3 verse 18. We're going to find looking at it, and then we get back to our theme verse and then we build our case, and it's gonna be a wrap. In the book of James chapter 3 verse 13, it says that who is wise and understanding among you, and that if anyone say that he is wise, if anyone say that he or she has understanding, ought to be found showing it with their conduct. A man not ashamed is a man who lives with wisdom. And Paul writes to Timothy, telling Timothy that we need to be found living as wise people and not as unwise people, redeeming our time because these days are evil. Who is wise and understanding among you? And Apostle Joshua Selman says about time. Time is very, very precious, in that I may lose, let's say, I may lose this frame, I may lose this lampstand, but I can recover it as long as I have time. And also he adds to it saying that the only request that a dying man always have is of time, it's of life. And to each and every one of us who have time, for each and every one of us who are alive, in that we ought to be found seeking the Lord more and more. In the book of Psalms, as we read it yesterday at Reconcile as well, in that is a verse that captured my attention in the book of Psalms, and he said that, don't you know that you are God's? But some of you will die like mere men. In the book of Psalms, I bet it was 85, and let me check it out. In the book of Psalms, but some of you shall die like mere men. And the interesting thing is say that and fall, in that people first of all die before the fall. You know, someone may think that first of all you fall and then later on you die, but it's the opposite. In the book of Psalms chapter, I don't know why it ain't bringing it. Do you not know that you are God? But that some of you are going to find dying like mere men. In the book of Psalms chapter 82 verse 6, in the book of Psalms chapter 82, and it says, the New International Version, it says Psalms 82, we're gonna jump verse 6. It said that, I said you are God's, and the word of the Lord cannot be broken. He cannot change forever. His word is established in heaven. And so since the word of the Lord is established in heaven, it's through his word that our lives also get to be established. I hope that you watched our, not for yesterday, the other day broadcast. I said you are God's, you are all sons of the Most High, but you will die like mere men. You will fall, and like every other ruler. Other translations say that, but you will die like mere men and fall like princes, and fall like princes. In that, first of all, people die. In that, death is all about stagnation, there being no advancement, there being darkness in your life, there being limitation in your life, you not progressing, you not advancing. That's the thing about death. But for each and every one of us, when we live like gods, when Paul, I bet, with Barnabas were entering into a region, they were being called the gods. They were being called gods. People in the book of Acts are saying that the gods are walking among us. The gods are walking among us. In the book of Acts chapter, in the book of Acts, it refers to Paul, I bet it was Barnabas and not Silas. In the book of Acts 17:23, after Paul had healed someone, and then they were like, the gods are walking among us, and then they were bringing sacrifices to them. And I just wanted you to see that people first of all die, but before they fall. And so to each and every one of us, I speak life to your life. When Josh Christ asked the other disciples, why haven't you left? In the book of John chapter 6 verse 65, 66, 67 there, and then Peter responded and said that, to whom, Lord, can we go? And you're the one who has the words of life. And so to each and every one of us, always remaining in the place of prayer where you hear the word of God. For man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out from the mouth of the Lord. And they're gonna be found living a life of being kept alive. In the book of Acts, it says that in him we live, move, exist, and have our being, because without him we can do nothing. And so in the book of James, when it talks about the wisdom, who is wise and understanding among you, let him show it by their good life. And so each and every one of us, if you're wise, you ought to be found showing it by living a good kind of life, by deeds that done in humility, in that not you parading yourself. You know, the Lord, he said that whenever you're giving, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is giving. giving. I've shared about it in that when I give with one hand, this is secrecy, but when I give with two hands, everyone will be like, this is like me asking for attention, begging for attention because I'm doing it with two hands, and that's so that people can see me. But whenever I'm doing it with one hand, that's not letting my left hand to know what my right hand is doing. Then God gets to bless whatever I do in secret. But it is done in humility that comes from wisdom. And so we are seeing that humility is usually from a place of wisdom. He who is wise and understanding among you. And so to each and every one of us, the Lord is saying that we should be found living a life of humbling ourselves under the mighty hand of God. And how do we humble ourselves? By becoming more and more wise. By becoming more and more wise. It's interesting when you read about the three wise men from the east, not the three wise men. We don't know of the number. People usually presume that there were three because of the three gifts which were presented to King Jesus. And so the wise men from the east, in that they took gifts to the king, in that they went all that way to worship the king, in that they were wise and humble enough to worship the King of Kings, and they did not go to him empty-handed, but they went to him with treasures, even though he was a child born, in that they still humbled themselves enough to go and worship him because they had seen his stars in the heaven. And also to each and every one of us, wisdom. In the book of Daniel, we see about Daniel being wise more than their Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Ebenezer, in that being found 10 times better, and the more and the more they kept on being given top ranks, high ranks in Babylon system. In the Babylonian system, they still continue on with their life of revering the Lord, with worshiping the Lord, with communing with the Lord. But if you have a bitter envy and selfish ambition in your heart, and so this is like our checklist for today, in that if you have a bitterness, do you find yourself having bitterness inside of you? In the book of James still says that why is there quarrel and fights among you? It's not because you envy one another. Don't you know that you have not because you ask not, and you receive not because you pray amiss? And so to each and every one of us, and that we ought to be found whenever we are making our request known unto the Lord, praying in accordance to his will, praying so that his will is going to be found being done. That's heaven coming down on earth so that his will can be done. And so why is there quarrel and fight among you? This is James addressing the church, in that the church, we ought not be found comparing ourselves to each other. I bet it's still in the book of Ecclesiastes where it talks about the reason why we find at times people working hard is because they envy their neighbor. People work hard because of envy. Let me see if I'm right. In the book of Ecclesiastes chapters 4 verse 4, I saw all the labor, and I saw that all toil and all achievements spring from one person's envy of another. This too is meaningless. Chasing after the wind, this too is meaningless. The evil of oppression. Verse 3 says that, but better than both is he who has not yet existed, who has not seen the evil that is done under the sun. I saw that all labor and success spring from man's envy of his neighbor. You know, at times someone is like, I have to do this, I have to do this. The reason why is because he wants to prove himself to be better than his neighbor. But for each and every one of us, in that, just live a life of being a better version of yourself. You just wanting to improve yourself and see yourself growing from grace to grace, from glory to glory, having your path continue on shining brighter and brighter. Ecclesiastes 1:14 says that I have seen all things that are done under the sun, and I found that them all to be futile, a pursuit of the wind. And so if I'm working hard in order to like prove my neighbor wrong, in that that's me doing it wrong. In that so maybe you may ask yourself, should I not be found working hard? In that working hard so as to solve a problem, so as to make things easy for other people, in that not so as to make the other person like feel bad about themselves. You know, the Lord talks about when I'm invited to a person who maybe eats pig and maybe I'm invited to a person who doesn't like eating pig and I like eating pig, in that I should not allow my faith to make him stumble. And so also to each and every one of us, as we continue on doing life and doing things in life, in that don't be found doing it in a way that you're going to be found making another person fall, making another person fall into sin. Josh Kai said that if anyone calls any of my little ones to sin, it's better for him to have a milestone tied in his neck and him thrown into the ocean. And that's the thing about sin. It makes you sink deep into the deep. And so to each and every one of us. And so Jesus Christ, he knows that we can be able to live a righteous life, because he said that if anyone causes any of my little ones to sin, if anyone causes any of my little ones to sin, it's better for him to have in the book of Matthew chapter 18 verse 6, it says that, but if anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble. And so we can live a life in righteousness, life in holiness, life not stumbling. And Jesus Christ said that I am the light of the world, and those of whom shall follow me will not stumble. And so at times people are like, oh, I am sinful in nature, I live in this body, so I should be found living in sin. But all of those are lies, in that to each and every one of us, we ought to be found living a life of knowing that we can live a life in righteousness. If anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a milestone hung around their neck and to be thrown into the depths of the sea. That's the thing about sin. Stumble, it will be better for them. And so we can live a life in righteousness, we can live a life in holiness. And Jesus Christ is the light of the world. Jesus is the light of the world. And those who follow him, I'm just searching for you so that you can see, will not stumble. Jesus is the light of the world, and those of whom will follow him will not stumble. In the book of John chapter 8 verse 12, he said that once again just spoke to the people and said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness. Whoever follows Jesus Christ will never walk in darkness. Hallelujah. In that we're going to find living a life in victory, living a life in glory. And the beautiful thing about sunlight is that whenever the sunlight shines upon the flower tends to blossom. That's the same thing about Jesus Christ. He wants each and every one of us to blossom. He wants each and every one of us to be fruitful, to live in fruition, to live in prosperity. And back to the book of harbor bitterness, envy, and selfish ambition in your heart. Do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. And so there's unspiritual wisdom and there's a spiritual wisdom. And the beautiful thing about the spiritual wisdom is that it will make you reap material things in your life. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. There you find disorder and every evil practice. And so to each and every one of us, in order for there not to be found any evil practice and any disorder, we need to be found living with the wisdom that comes from above. And the beautiful thing about our God is that he's a God of order, in that he created the whole earth in 7 days, in that the day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, in that he's a God of order. Before Jesus Christ fed the 5,000 people and also the 4,000 people, he told them to sit in groups, and that's bringing order. Wherever there is order, there is multiplication. And so to each and every one of us, in that anyone who breaks down their task, anyone who schedules their day and says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, at the end of the day, you usually find them to be fruitful and to have achieved a lot because they had a work plan. And I've started using that word. And now to the book of Ecclesiastes, as we are coming to a wrap, as we are coming to a close, which is our theme verse in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, verse 12. And he says that wisdom is shelter as money is shelter. And so to anyone who has wisdom, in that it's as if you're having a shield. You're having a shield. He who is wise and understanding among you. Wisdom is a shelter as money is a shelter. But the advantage of knowledge is this: wisdom preserves those of whom have it. Wisdom will preserve you. Wisdom is going to found and make you live a life being better than your competitors. Wisdom in money can get you almost anything. Wisdom and money can get you almost anything. In the word of the Lord, in the Bible, it says that money answereth all things. Money answereth all things. And also wisdom like solves all things. Money answereth all things. Wisdom solves all things. And so you can go ahead and listen to our Bible study of yesterday, Reconcile World, on Facebook, and you're gonna get to be enlightened more on this. For the protection of wisdom is like the protection of money, and the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the life of those of whom have it. And so in order for me to be preserved, it doesn't matter of how things are around me, in that wisdom is there to minister life into my life, as long as I choose to embrace wisdom. And so to each and every one of us, choose to live a life of embracing wisdom. Who is the wisest man in the Bible? And that's going to be the last thing I check. The wise man. I don't know if there was anyone referred to as the wise man. It's Solomon. The wise man from the east. I don't know if there is, we already look at the wise men from the east and seen of how they were humble. And the wisdom is a defense, as money, and money is a defense. But the excellence of knowledge is this, that wisdom gives life to those of whom have it, to those of whom embrace it, to those of whom recognize it. She is a tree in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 18. It says that she is a tree of life to those who embrace her wisdom, and those who lay hold of her are blessed. And so when we get to lay hold of wisdom, we are going to find living a life of being blessed. And the beautiful thing about the blessed of the Lord is that they can never be cast. In the book of Proverbs 8:35, it says that for whoever finds me finds life and obtains the favor of the Lord. Finding wisdom, and you're going to find finding life. I bet I've shared this in men's group. Because we all know about he who finds a wife finds a good thing, and obtains favor from the Lord. And also there's a thing about finding wisdom. When you find wisdom, you're going to find life, and you're going to be found obtaining favor from the Lord. And so when you're single, you can still find favor from the Lord by seeking wisdom. Ecclesiastes 2:13, and so the wisdom exceed fully, but as light just as light exits darkness, wisdom exits fully foolishness, as just as light exits darkness. And so it's my prayer, my heart desire that you're charged up, a man with no shame. That's my part 2. Until I have a beautiful and wonderful weekend, till next time, God bless you and keep you. Yeah.